Spread right here on the Eagles Pinpool Network. I'm your host, as always, Mark Henry Jr. You can give me a follow at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. And for Super Wild Card Weekend, we had to get one of our super long-time guests here in My Guy Beef. You can check him out on Twitter at Ryan Coyle 35. Saul, he did a big college football, NFL preview a couple days ago before I think before the first playoff game or before the first Final Four game with his guys over at Beef Up Front. Beef, how we doing?
Good, man. A really exciting stretch of football, as you kind of touched on, starting Thursday. Thursday night's game was awesome. I know you and I are probably rooting for Carson Beck to lose in the national championship. Last night's game a little disappointing, but just the story of Signetti and Indiana rolls on. It's awesome. And then I think once we get past Panthers, Rams today, the rest of the games I think are coin flips where I could see going either way. So I'm really excited for this weekend of football coming up, and happy to be here.
Yeah, I think Wild Card Weekend and next weekend are the two best weekends of the NFL season. Obviously, two more games, I guess, on the Wild Card Weekend than we get next weekend, but two just awesome wall-to-wall weekends of football. And with six games, you're bound to get one or two classics. I think. I think we're hoping that one or two of those does not come in Philadelphia. Maybe not a classic. Maybe just a an Eagles victory there. But let's go through it. We'll just start out with and go chronologically here and start out with the least interesting game of the week, and that's why it's on at 4:30 on Saturday, as Bill Simmons calls it, the Shakey's Bowl. You've got Rams at Panthers. The Rams are a 10-point favorite here. Obviously, the Rams lost to Carolina a few weeks ago, which in turn did end up harming their chances of getting the one seed and winning that division. But I think them winning that or them losing that game actually makes me more confident that they're going to win this one. I just don't see Carolina beating this team two times in a month and a half, whatever it is. Is there any chance? I mean, all the Eagles fans, I think, out there will be rooting for Carolina on Saturday afternoon. Is there a chance that Carolina can win this game, in your opinion?
I don't think so. The thing with the Rams and me, I spent a lot of the year kind of talking about how open the league is this year, and if I had to trust like one team, I think it would be the Rams just because of their consistency. But then they've made me look pretty dumb with that point over the last month, where they've kind of struggled. They get Devontae back in the fold though today, and who knows, maybe just a little kind of reset here, and that you get the easiest matchup as well in the Panthers, and then I think they'll take their chances whether they have to go to whether it's Chicago or they have to go to Seattle. I think the Rams will take their chances with that. So it's a game I'm not touching from a betting perspective. Like 10 points is a lot, especially for a playoff game. And the Panthers have been so weird this year in their own right. Like they'll show up and they'll beat the Rams. They'll show up and beat the Packers, and then they'll look like they did last week against the Bucks. Like what Panthers team shows up, I don't think it's a team that has a chance to win. I think Rams money line's like minus 600. I think that goes to show you just a little bit about everything you need to know about this game. For me, I probably would look, if you're looking for a bet in this one, maybe a Devontae touchdown with him back in the fold. It's probably like minus 140. I think I saw it at last. But yeah, it's the let's get this over with game and get on to the Saturday night, which I'm excited for Bears Packers.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the one thing, so the Rams have been the team I've been afraid of all year long for the Eagles' sake. And I'm very happy they're a wild card. We've eliminated the possibility of having to go see them on the road. They would have to come to Philly whenever that could potentially happen down the line. Um, but I'd be lying if I said the last 6 weeks haven't made me feel a lot better about the Rams as just a contender overall. I should say worse as a contender, but better as an Eagles fan that could
Yeah.
potentially go up against them. You look over these last six games, the Rams are giving up 27 points per game over their last six, and those games were against Bryce Young, Jacoby Brissett twice, Kirk Cousins, and Sam Darnold and Jared Goff, who are solid, but they're not, top notch quarterbacks or anything like that. I think 27 points per game when Brissett is two of those, Bryce Young's one of those, washed Kirk Cousins is one of those. That's a number that's sticking in my head a bit, and I'm wondering if I know that this defense was very turnover reliant in the first half of the year. It's similar to Chicago, but Chicago has been able to stretch that out longer throughout the year. I wonder if this Rams defense, Chris Shula out there interviewing for jobs, I wonder if they've kind of turned into a pumpkin over this last month and a half, and if that's going to be. And you look throughout every team in the NFL. You mentioned how open it is. Every team seems to have a fatal flaw,
Yep.
and it seems like if it's the Rams, to me, what their fatal flaw would be that defense was kind of fake in the first half of the year. And I don't know. I ended up picking them to go to the NFC Championship. Maybe we'll get after we go through all the games. We'll go through the bracket and see where we're at for the championships and the Super Bowl. But I ended up with the Rams losing in the NFC title game. But a team that I thought was going to go really far, no matter what, maybe a month or two ago, I could see any other outcome besides losing today, pretty much.
Yeah, and we've had a lot, just throwing it back to the Eagles, a lot of doubts, obviously, about the offense and the inconsistencies. I think the Eagles have scored 30 or more in 4 games this year. One of those was against the Rams. We know that that last second Jordan Davis blocked field goal touchdown helps add to that. But I think after that first half where the Eagles kind of walked through it in that game, that was some of the most alive we've seen the passing game all year. I think our receivers are major mismatches for the corners, especially A.J. Brown. You look at the Rams corners, they're smaller. A.J. Brown is really able to kind of body those guys, and he's been able to do it over the past couple of years now where we've seen the Eagles and Rams match up, obviously. Saquon didn't have a great game this year against them, but he did last year. And I think we can also go back to Nick Sirianni has never lost to Sean McVay. It seems like he has his number. And as you mentioned, too, if this matchup were to arise, we get them at home. We saw it last year. Obviously, the Rams had a chance there down the stretch at the end, but the Eagles were pretty much in control for most of that game. So in the NFC, they probably are the team I'm the most afraid of because I think even though with the flaws of the defense and how good our defense is, that offense is still maybe the most talented overall offense in the league where, you don't bring your A game for one day, they could go out there and put a 30 bomb on you. And with how inconsistent the Eagles offense can be at times, that's the major worry. So especially now with Devontae back in the fold, you have to look at the Rams as, legit contenders, but I'm with you too. The defense has definitely been worrisome. When you let Sam Darnold go out there and carve you up like he did on that game on Thursday Night Football, I think that kind of goes to show you everything you need to know about the defense and the state of that right now. But the Rams, to just wrap it up on them, plus 425 still to win the Super Bowl, the second best odds at the moment. So Vegas is still really respecting them despite them being the 5 seed here.
You holding any juicy preseason futures or futures throughout the season or anything?
Nah, I didn't put many futures in this year. Last year I had Ohio State and the Eagles, so I think my long-term futures kind of luck ran out with that one. But yeah, I actually was looking at potentially Eagles 10-1. They're down on DraftKings to plus 950, but I think that might be worth a stab here still at the end of the day.
Yeah, I the only things I have from the preseason, I'm that are they're dead basically, and we'll talk about that's a good way to segue into the game. But I do have a Packers NFC and a Packers Super Bowl future from when they traded Parsons. I got it in before the odds shifted on one of the books, and so probably worse numbers than they are now, to be honest. But I that's the only preseason future I'm holding. I did just add 3 pretty big futures this week, and we'll get to those as those games come up. But let's talk about the Packers. That line has shifted, 1.5 either way to Green Bay and Chicago. In my opinion, take the money line if you're betting the favorite. Take the points if you're betting the dog. Wherever that line ends up shaking out by the time the game happens tonight. But I understand why this looks like a trap to people, and I feel like every podcast I listen to, every gambling person I follow, everybody's on Green Bay. And I get it. Chicago's been a paper tiger in terms of the analytical models all year long. Packers lost 4 straight to close the year. I can't get that Tyler Huntley game out of my head where they gave up 41 points, 220 yards, I think, to Derrick Henry. I think they gave up like 7 yards per carry in that game. I think this is just a case of these two teams have been a little improperly valued by Vegas all year long. The Packers ended the regular season at 6-10-1 against the spread. The Bears 10-6-1 against the spread. And I understand that the Bears DVOA, some of their EPA metrics, some of that stuff does not look like that of a 2 seed, does not look like that of a contender. And I'm not trying to tell you that they're a contender. If they were playing maybe 4 of the other NFC teams playing this weekend, or 3 of them, I maybe wouldn't pick the Bears. But I'm going with Chicago here, and it's actually my most confident bet of the weekend. I love the Bears plus 1.5 tonight. I think that this Packers team's just dead. I know they're getting a lot of guys back, but I think it's even more on the defensive side of the ball at this point.
Yeah, I really like the Bears in this spot as well. I've never been a full time Jordan Love believer. I just think he's a little bit too inconsistent for my liking. And I also don't think like Christian Watson has been awesome since he came back. Tucker Kraft was awesome until he got hurt. But I still think they truly lack like I think they were hoping for maybe Matthew Golden to be that guy, but that true like elite receiver that can really be a game changer. And that's where I've always kind of held back on the Packers. When you look at Josh Jacobs too, like he's a great like fantasy player. He's a great anytime touchdown scorer, but like not that efficient of a runner. You look at his yards per carry; it's usually like 3.5 to 4. Sure, you can kind of move the ball down the field in that way, but I think against this Bears team, you're going to need to put up some points. And the Bears, you kind of touched on it, where they might have been on like the right side of luck a lot this year. I think we could see them next year potentially being like what the Commanders were this year. Not as bad, but like where they're probably 1 year ahead of schedule right now, and they had so many things go their way. I think 6 wins this year when they were trailing underneath the 2 minute warning. They had to get that last second touchdown against the Bears and then get the onside kick to go win that game. So they've had a lot of things where they needed to go their way, gone their way. And I think you can point to like the Eagles too. They have that happen a lot, but the Eagles have had that over 3-4 year span now. When you look at kind of just a 1 year span, you can chalk it up to more luck. Eagles just kind of have like the winning identity. So would I be surprised if Green Bay went there and won? No, but I do like the Bears in this spot at home. Little bit scared of Ben Johnson first playoff game. Does he try to get a little too cute? Caleb Williams, what does he try to do? Some hero ball. Those things kind of worry me, but Jordan Love does have a propensity to throw some interceptions. As we know, this Bears defense is very turnover opportunistic. I think they get a couple picks on him. Not having Micah in the fourth quarter to rush Caleb, especially with how mobile he is in the pocket, I think is certainly a big loss. So I like the Bears to win this one at home tonight, and maybe put some doubt into if Matt LaFleur will be returning next year to Green Bay, because I could definitely see that being like a potentially Harbaugh want to go there to the Packers.
I think that would be such a mistake for Green Bay.
I can
It's
see it too,
crazy.
but with
No,
the
I know it's
contract,
out
I
there.
like he's
It's out
not.
there.
I don't think he's signed for next year, right?
Yeah, it's either that or he doesn't want to be on a lame duck next year. I can't remember
Okay.
which scenario it is, but you're right. No, there's a lot of buzz out there about that. If he goes on the open market, I mean, I think Stefanski and McDaniel like are the top of the open candidates. It's a rough coordinator year.
Yeah.
I always lean offensive, and I think Clint Kubiak, who's got like I think 6 of the 8 teams interviewing him, I think he should get a job. I think he's earned it. But other than him, and you're looking at retread guys or DCs or guys that I normally wouldn't be that jazzed up to hire. So if
Hmm.
If Lafleur is out there, I think he's right there above actually Stefanski, McDaniel, Kubiak, and any of the other names that I like, which is few and far between in this cycle this year. It's shocking seeing Matt Nagy and Robert Sala get
Yeah.
this many interviews this soon after. It's crazy to me. But let's move on to Sunday. And this is a game that I'll be watching from the Jetro parking lot because I'm going to the Birds game on Sunday. First playoff game that I've ever
Awesome.
attended in my life, so pumped up for it. But I'll be watching Bills Jags while tailgating there. And this is the game of the week that I have by far the least idea what is going to happen. I think either team that wins this could really make a legitimate run at winning the AFC, if not even the Super Bowl. I think if the Bills would have been the 5 seed, they might have been my pick to win the AFC because you sell yourself a little more. That first Pittsburgh game, I think, is a lot easier than that Jacksonville game. You probably still have to go on the road 3 times, but I do think that the path that they're going to be presented with as a 6 is different than what it would have been as a 5 potentially. So I ended up going a different way with my pick to win the AFC. I am going to pick Buffalo to win this game. I'm not betting it. I have Josh Allen touchdown in. I think it was minus 120 or 125 at the time. I haven't checked what it's at now. But it I it's you look at it both ways. There's a lot of reasons to trust either side here. The Bills have been phenomenal against good teams this year, 5-1 against the spread against teams above 500. But then you look at the Jags; they've been the best team in the league against the run, and the best team in the league against explosive runs. And that's so heavy of what Buffalo wants to do as an offense is based on that. So I'm really at a loss with this game, Beef.
Yeah, this is a coin flip for me too. I think the AFC is, I think just big picture wise, when you look at the bracket, like I think if 12 teams won besides the Steelers and the Panthers, like I would be like, okay, I could see it. Like, sure, there's probably 5 or 6 more that I think actually have a legit shot, but like how open it is wild. And I think the AFC is a little bit more open than the NFC because I could really see any of these teams making it to the Super Bowl, probably besides the Steelers, which is pretty awesome just as like a neutral kind of viewer from that side of things. But I'm with you. It's like this game is so tough. I did one of those like fantasy playoff things where you take one player from each team, like
I
two
love that.
quarterbacks. Yeah, 2 quarterbacks. I think 5 running backs, 5 receivers, a tight end, and a kicker. My quarterback, I picked Josh Allen, and I picked Matt Stafford because I think of all things shake right, those 2 5 seeds definitely, or the 6 seed and a 5 seed definitely could make a run to the Super Bowl. And like I do think if the Bills are going to make a run, it's going to be on the back of Josh Allen. I'm actually going with the Jags though in this game because I think the cliche gets thrown around a lot, but football is the ultimate team sport, and I think the Jaguars are just a really good team on all levels. And I think the Bills are just a little bit too dependent on Allen. Like I really think this probably the worst Bills team of like the last 3-4 years. Like I
I
would have
agree.
been more confident of one of those past teams that they had that lost to Mahomes in the playoffs, in this spot. And I think the matchup too that you touched on, like so much of this stuff is dependent on James Cook. Now I definitely think we could see a lot of Josh Allen using his legs in this one, looking to extend plays if they're forced to throw, and that could definitely help them move the ball down the field a little bit. But I think you got to trust the Jags. Like I think this is like kind of like an Alabama Indiana game where you're just kind of trusting the helmets instead. Like oh the Jags, like okay, still a joke. Jags have won 8 in a row going into the playoffs, so. Trevor Lawrence playing the best ball of his career. Travis Etienne has had a great revival, and ever since like Jacoby Myers, it's weird to say that got in the fold there. He's really kind of changed that offense. Brenton Strange has been awesome. It's a team that just comes to play every single week. They don't really have that many star defenders, I think, but it's a unit that's played really well together. So I'm gonna go with the Jags here at home. If Josh Allen goes there, plays Superman and wins the game, am I gonna be surprised? No. So that's why I'm kind of staying away from this game as a betting perspective, but took Josh Allen because I think if they are going to win, he's going to have to go off in this one.
Is there an argument that the easier path in the AFC playoffs, and I guess I'm going right back to the 5 seed thing, would have been if the Jags lost their division and got the 5 seed? Because if you go to Pittsburgh instead of hosting Buffalo, it also depends how you feel about Denver and New England. Personally, I'm a New
Yeah.
England believer a little bit more than Denver. So you're more likely to see Denver than New England as a 5 seed. If Jacksonville wins, they're going to New England. If New England wins, so it's if the Jags would have gotten the Texans in round one, if they would have gotten the Steelers somehow, if they would have gotten the Chargers somehow, I would have been on the Jags. I think pretty definitively. This is a game I'm not betting. I'm not
Yeah.
betting either side. I'm picking Buffalo in my bracket, but I totally get where you're coming from. I do think the Jags are a better overall team, and they're at home. But I do go back to this being, a very young Jags team. The
Hmm.
coaching staff very young. They haven't really been there before. But on the other hand, it's not like I believe in Sean McDermott. I'm a longtime Sean McDermott hater, so I'm kind of speaking out of both sides of my mouth there. And we just talked about LaFleur, and the buzz is not nearly as high for McDermott being on the hot seat. I think that should be flipped. Like if McDermott loses this game, he should be gone. If I was a
Yep.
Bills fan and they lost this game, I would never want to see that Bill Burr lookalike on the sideline ever again coaching my team. I think I've said for a long time, I don't think that team will ever win a Super Bowl as long as Sean McDermott's the head coach. Now, I did pick them to win a couple games in the playoffs in my bracket, but it's funny. I'm actually more confident. So the way that my bracket shook is that I had Buffalo going to Denver in round two. I think I'm more confident if Buffalo wins this game that they will beat Denver than I am that they will win this game, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see that for sure. I actually I had the prediction kind of the same as you, where I said on my show earlier this week, if the Bills lose this game, I think they move on from McDermott. Kind of just like the hardball scenario where it's like, how many times can you almost get there and fall short and continue to run it back? Like, I don't really think Sean McDermott is making such a big difference. Like, hell, maybe just elevate Joe Brady in that scenario, let him
Oh,
be
the
the head
Bills
coach.
fans hate him, dude. It's
Do they really?
crazy. Oh, they've turned on him so much this year. Because I still like the Ravens are interviewing him, and I still think it's like, yeah, I would want to talk to Joe Brady if I had a head coaching job open. I wanted to hire him when we hired Sirianni like 4 years ago. But yeah, the Bills fans, if you look at like any Joe Brady tweet or like I'm in a group chat with some Bills fans, they despise him. It's
Really?
crazy, crazy. But yeah, I'm with you. I think we hated Kellen Moore for like a long stretch last year.
Oh, yeah.
Fans can be crazy. But no, I totally I don't know if they will move on, but they 1000% should. That's I 100% think that. And I will say, John Harbaugh, good coach. I don't know if like CEO coach who isn't like calling plays on either side of the ball is the guy I'm like falling over myself to like fire Matt LaFleur, like fire these guys for personally. I think he's a fine hire. Like if you're Miami or you're one of these teams looking like, fine. But
I think like a spot like Cleveland or the Giants is like great for him because I think he just gets you back to competency, like relevancy.
yeah,
I've always been a big like over the last 3 to 4 years. I've been like, why does John Harbaugh have the longest leash? He was the coach there for 18 years. He made it to only one Super Bowl. He won one
yeah.
Super Bowl over 18 years, and you had Lamar for the past 8. Like it's pretty insane how short they've fallen. And I know he's had to go against Brady, had to go against Peyton Manning coming in, he had to go against Mahomes, obviously, but still, at the end of the day, like, is your goal just to go 12-4 and lose in the divisional round or the championship, or do you want to have a chance to win it all? Like, I think some of these times, like, sure, 1 or 2 years is premature to fire these guys, but like 18 years, okay, like I don't really cry me a river. You should have probably won a little bit more.
I agree. And it's different than Tomlin because Tomlin hasn't had Lamar Jackson for 8 years.
Exactly.
It's like Tomlin's elevated these teams with terrible quarterback play year in and year out. So when the buzz was louder for Tomlin than Harbaugh, I was like, what are we doing here? But let's skip the Eagles real fast. Let's do them last. Let's finish the AFC here and just do the next 2 AFC games at 8 o'clock on Sunday. We've got Chargers at Patriots. I'll probably be stuck getting out of the lots in Philly, missing this game. But I know the schedule. I know all the they have the third easiest schedule of all time. I think it finished in DVOA. I will say one of the other two teams won the Super Bowl, and one of the other two lost in the Super Bowl, I believe. So the other two top easiest schedules of all time did still make the Super Bowl, and that's what I'm predicting New England to do. New England's won 13 of 14 games. They're averaging, I believe it's 31 points per game in that stretch. They've scored 28 points 10 times in that stretch. Or 28 plus, I should say, 10 times in that stretch. They've never scored less than 24 since week 3. And I know that the funny thing about the schedule narrative that's out there with New England, it's actually more about the defense. It's actually more about the quarterbacks they've played. If you look at, there was that chart, I don't know if you saw that chart going around that the Eagles had played by far like the highest EPA. I don't know what the stat was, to be honest with you. EPA per game or EPA overall quarterback play overall, that the Eagles had played the hardest quarterback schedule in the NFL, and it was like a chart, and 31 teams had bars above the chart, and then New England's was like way down on the chart. They were the only team that went down on the chart. So they played really, I think it was a bunch of backup quarterbacks and injured quarterbacks and third strings, but the defense they played, the DVOA actually says is kind of average. They played like a normal defensive schedule. So I think those offensive numbers are real. So I'm going to bet the Patriots over 24.5 in this game. I know the Chargers defense has been pretty good, but I'm actually more confident that New England's going to score no matter what. And you look at kind of the numbers with like Drake May against the blitz, against zone, against man, against quarters, like covers, like it doesn't matter like what you throw at him. He's kind of really efficient no matter what it seemed this year. So I'm all in on New England. I put in a bet on them 10-1 to win the Super Bowl this week. I also put in a bet on them at I think it was plus 450. I tweeted it out the other day, but plus 450 to win the AFC. I think the way I look at it is I think there's one team in the AFC that if they're in the Super Bowl, we'd look back on and be like, why didn't we see this coming? And it would be the team with this emerging star quarterback who won 13 of their last 14 games. And by the way, the only game they lost was a game on the road in Buffalo where they had I forget, it was a 3 touchdown lead, a 20-point lead, whatever that lead was. And that was also a team that they had previously beat in that 14 game stretch. So I'm all in on the Pats. And I think this might be our first big disagreement. I have a feeling Beef's going to be all in on the Chargers here.
Yeah, I am. I don't know if it's my Justin bias. I'm rooting for him just to get that playoff win to shut Bernard up for once. But I think this is just kind of a spot where it's the Chargers, I think, can make this game ugly enough to make it close. Do I think they're going to win? I picked it for my bracket, but I definitely like the 3.5 because I think they can make it like a 17-14 game if need be. One of the big reasons why I think the Chargers can hang around in this one, we've all seen and know how bad the offensive line play has been, 31st or 32nd in every category. I think when you look at the Patriots, like out of all the matchups the Chargers could have got, this is probably the best because that defensive line isn't the strength really of that team. They don't really have a star kind of go-to pass rusher. If the Chargers were to play the Broncos or the Texans, one of those teams with really strong defensive lines,
Jacksonville.
that can really get after Herbert and abuse that offensive line like it's been abused all season, then I think I would have a different tone. But I think with the not elite defensive line going against them, and then I look back to, I know it was very uncharacteristic of the Eagles and of Jalen Hurts, but he never turns the football over, and he threw, 4 interceptions that game, 5 total turnovers, I think it was, including that crazy one where it was the interception into the fumble. But it's like, if the Chargers are able to make Jalen Hurts turn the football over, who never does, can't they force potentially 1 or 2 into Drake May? Like, I really think it could be 17-14 type of game, and they're just kind of hanging around there. Do they get the ball last? Do they get a chance to go win this one? I'm going to trust Harbaugh in the playoffs, and it goes back to, too, like Drake May, first ever playoff start. What are we to expect of him? I think I saw potential snow in the forecast as well. The Chargers just want to kind of play kind of like how Miami has played over the past couple weeks, I think, in the college football playoff, where it's like, let's just play keep away. Let's hope for maybe a turnover or two and give ourselves a chance head into the fourth quarter. So for that reason, I really like the plus 3.5, but I'm going to take them to win. You kind of went the narrative where it's like, despite the schedule stuff, I'm still buying into it. I'll kind of go the opposite and say, all right, kind of go out here and prove me wrong in this spot. So I think we're going to see at least kind of one eye-opening upset, and I think we could definitely see it here with the Chargers.
My thing on it is just, and by the way, I do agree with you. If you're the Chargers, and I'm buddies with a Chargers fan. I'm actually a Chargers blogger who part of my take likes to shout out now. Guilty as charged. Shout out to their podcast. I think it's because Memes is a Chargers fan, so he's, or not Memes. Shane. Part of my take is a Chargers fan, so he started following my buddy Alex, who does the Guilty as Charged pod, and he's been getting like shout outs all the time now on fun. It's been like 3 times. He's I send him over to him. It's funny. But anyway, he agreed. Like, he thinks they're going to beat the Patriots because he's like, the defensive line can't punish the offense. For me, I think the Chargers are going to move the ball. I think Herbert's going to have like a 250 plus yards. Like, I think Herbert's going to be able to score some points. I do think this Chargers defense is gettable. There's a lot of like, Bill Simmons, obviously biased, but he ran down kind of a list of some of the defensive metric stuff with them, and I think that might be a little schedule based if you kind of look at a lot of the quarterbacks that the Chargers played defensively. So the snow plays a factor. So I'm just taking Chargers team total or Patriots team total over. I do lean that over at 45.5 though. I do think this is going to be, in my opinion, I would pick like I think like 31-24 if I'm picking this game. So I think it's going to be up there. But let's move on to a game that I do not.
I had one more point on.
Yeah.
I heard Stuckey say earlier this week too. Like, the Chargers play like that too high more than any team in the league, I think it is. And they actually have the second best red zone defense this year. And the Patriots red zone offense, like middle of the pack kind of. So I think the Chargers game plan, just don't get beat over the top. Don't let Diggs have any explosive plays. And kind of just, hope and pray that they can hold him in the red zone and make him kick some field goals. Probably the strategy that they're kind of going for. But I think if they're able to kind of muck it up I think if they're forced to get into a shootout, like you kind of like, I definitely like the Patriots. But if they're able to kind of control the tempo and play that game in the teens or low 20s, is how I think the Chargers kind of hang around.
And then a game that I do not think will be 31-24, the
Hmm.
Houston Texans at the Pittsburgh Steelers with a total of 38 and a half here. That's
Wow.
got to be by far the lowest, right? 44 and
Yeah.
a half is the next lowest. Yeah. Wow. Four of the game, or I should say, yeah, four of the games are between 44 and a half and 45 and a half. And then you have the big outliers with the Bills Jags at 51 and a half and the Texans Steelers at 38 and a half. By the way, timeout. Meant to say this stat with the Bills Jags game. Crazy stat, means nothing, by the way. The Jags have not won a. I botched this. The Jags have not won a game that the total was 49 and a half or higher in their last 23 attempts.
The Jags or the Texans?
The Jags. I went
wow.
back. I meant to
Okay.
give this stat at Jags Bills. That's an insane stat. It's going back over 18 seasons. 0-23 in games where the total is above 49 flat, not 49 and a half. The
And what
Jags
is it?
could
Like
break.
51?
Yeah, it's at 51 and a half in this game for Bills Jags. So they could break an 18-year streak here in the playoffs, winning a game with a total of over 49. What a bizarre stat. I don't know the last time I saw a stat that made me like double check it and like scratch my head more than that one. But Monday Night Football, Houston at Pittsburgh. I'm going with the Texans here. It looks like you can. I think you could finagle a -2.5. I'm not looking, but it's -102 at -3 on DraftKings. You can probably get that to like -120 for 2.5. Obviously, there's other options out there too, but I'm probably going to try to grab 2.5 here as a number for Houston. I just think Pittsburgh kind of they shot it. They shot their load last week, I guess you could say. I think that's kind of their big win, and you've seen a lot of win loss out of Pittsburgh over a long period of time under Tomlin. It feels like when they have a big momentous win, they have a crushing loss following that. And I think the Texans are just the better team, and I think the Steelers O line's been playing better, but I think Rodgers is going to get heated up by this Texans O line. They're not going to need the blitz to do it. I don't think Rodgers is going to be able to pick apart this defense at all.
Do you buy into the Steelers Monday night home game trend at all? I think it's like 19 in a row.
It's that's unbelievable stat too. I bet the Dolphins against them like a month or two ago on Monday night, and then they blew them out, and I was like, maybe the stat does matter. But here I am betting against them again on Monday night. I do like Houston, not anywhere near as much as I like Chicago, or as much as I like New England overall. But I do like Houston to get by.
Yeah, I think when you look at, especially over the past couple weeks, this Steelers offense without DK, it's been primarily, let's check it down to Gainwell and Warren and try to methodically move the ball down the field doing that and running the football. I think even when you get DK back this week, that's kind of neutralized with Stingley. And then I definitely think just Rodgers' lack of mobility these days against this Texans defensive line and pass rush, it's just a mismatch. I understand Houston's on the road. The line's still a little puzzling to me. I thought it would maybe be like 4.5 or something like that. I definitely like the Texans in this one pretty comfortably, probably in like the 23 to 10 ballpark, something like that. So I probably still would go the under. I'd probably even look. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but like the Steelers team total under, I think is something worth a look as well. Just because I just don't see them being able to really move the ball. I think we could see it be pretty similar to what we saw with Texans Chargers a few weeks ago at the beginning, and then the Chargers kind of had some garbage time yards thrown in there. But I just don't see a scenario where this team can really move the ball on this defense. So I'd like the Texans in this one too. Steelers team total, just looked it up on DraftKings, is 17.5. So I definitely like that. -115, under 17.5 if I had to make one play on this game.
And then our final game, obviously close to our hearts here at the Eagles Pinpool Network, 49ers at Eagles. This line has ballooned up to 6 points and has to make you feel good as an Eagles fan to see the line keep moving towards the Eagles. What's the latest on Trent Williams that you've seen out there? I have to think that plays a part in this line movement.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon it said that he thinks he'll be good to go.
Okay, then maybe
in
not.
kind of his practice. He's listed officially as questionable, but I think the line moved a little bit more in because Lane's playing. It sounds like,
Okay.
so I probably would attribute it to that.
Yeah, I'm. This was not a matchup I wanted a couple of weeks ago, but I'm happy we have it now. For the
Yeah.
same reasons you mentioned with the Rams, I did not want to get in a shootout with San Fran when their offense was humming the way it was
Hmm.
maybe 2, 3 weeks ago. But I think Kittle banged up, McCaffrey not looking like himself these last couple weeks, Trent Williams banged up. That's three of the Brock Purdy banged up. That's their four most important pieces on offense. And then Ricky Pearsall not playing here. That's one of their other most important pieces on offense. It just feels like that defense is terrible. Like just flat out. That's a bad defense. Seattle ran efficiently against them for the first time in weeks, which they don't run efficiently all that often outside of big explosive plays. And they should have scored far more points. I think didn't they go for it on fourth and like
Yeah.
within the 10 twice and not get it? Seattle should have scored more points than 13. They could have named their score. Obviously, Chicago put up 38 the week before, and I, I think, man, if the offense doesn't put up 24 in this game, they're never going to in this
Yeah.
playoffs. I do think, and maybe I'm biased, I'm going to the game. I've been a little less concerned about some of the offensive stuff all year because I do think you look at a lot of the numbers with Jalen's designed runs and Jalen running the ball in general, it was cut in half in every possible metric you look at yards per game, attempts per game, scrambles per game, designed runs per game. Every single one was cut in half to whatever the lowest year you want to pick out of his last 4 years of his career. He was just running at a rate that the lowest rate by far that we'd ever seen. You have to imagine that at the very least, Jalen starts running at the rate we were used to in the regular season back in the day because we've seen multiple times that rate has went up in the playoffs.
Playoffs.
So
Yep.
I do think you look at the way that the run game has struggled. I think Jalen running is and Jason Kelsey has said it all year long. Jalen running is a cheat code for the rest of the run game, whether that's Saquon, whether that's Tank, and whether that's playing that into play action. I think that the key and the X factor to this game and to this entire playoff run is Jalen's legs.
Yep.
I really do believe that because I think that's the biggest thing that's been missing and maybe something that we haven't talked about enough about the Eagles offense.
Yeah, that play against the Rams last year, what was it, first quarter?
Yeah,
That play
first
just
drive.
replaying in my head right now. Kind of perfect, picture perfect example there. I think the Eagles in this one. I'm not necessarily going to say roll, but I don't really think it's one that's really ever in doubt. I think they win pretty comfortably. Am I going to bet the spread? No. If I'm making a bet on this game, I'm actually probably riding with the under just because I think Seattle kind of laid the blueprint last week of how to slow down this offense. And Vic Fangio owns Kyle Shanahan. Now, they haven't matched up against each other in quite some time. I think it was 2018, but
Yeah.
11 points, 6 points, 15 points, and 9 points. Vic Fangio has held Kyle Shanahan offenses too. So kind of has his number there. Kyle Shanahan even was kind of talking about it this week, like just how good he is. I think he kind of lives rent free in his head there. The one thing I would be kind of, a little scared of, does McCaffrey go nuclear? I think that's really kind of the only way because when you look at the receivers for this 49ers team, I'm not necessarily that scared of them. I think with our linebackers, especially Zach Bond, like if he's matched up against Kittle in coverage, I think he can hold his own kind of in that regard. So Eagles, give them the benefit of the doubt, whatever you want to say. They're at home. They're going to win this football game. Shout out to Bosco. Heard this stat yesterday on Part of My Take, but 5-0 at home under Sirianni and Hurts, and they're winning those games by an average of 21 points per game. It's just been a team that's been a force at home. You combine that with Vic Fangio and his success against Kyle Shanahan, too. I'm going to take the Eagles to win. I think the 49ers peaked a little bit too early, and just a team that I personally have never been a big Kyle Shanahan fan. I think he's always been a little kind of overinflated, but I would
I'm
definitely
not there.
I would throw him in the ring this year for Coach of the Year for getting
Yeah.
this team like kind of this far and the patchwork, like having to throw Mac Jones in there and making him look like a serviceable quarterback for so long. But I think it's kind of one of those things where they might have just ran out of steam. You looked when the offense was playing really well, it was against the Bears, who are a terrible defense, the Titans, the Colts, where they would put up some numbers, and last week at home even against Seattle. They lay a dud in, and I like the Eagles defense better. So I think the Eagles win. I'm probably going to go like a 20-10, 23-10, something like that, 23-13. Really like the under. I'm still kind of worried about the Eagles offense, but if they get up like 10-0 early, I think we could definitely see them kind of just take their foot off the gas and play it safe and just be like, all right, well, the defense is going to win this game like we kind of seen. Very similar to the Buffalo game a few weeks ago. I think we kind of see that. So I like the Eagles to win, move on, and if you made me make a pick against the spread, still I would take them to cover the 6.
Couple stats here. And by the way, I want to say I'm a weirdo with the 49ers because I don't hate them the way that the Eagles fans mostly do, and I don't hate Shanahan, I feel like, the way Eagles fans mostly do. I kind of feel like if we were in an NFC championship and our team had been, historically good over the second half of the year with this new quarterback, and then that quarterback got hurt, we would probably be annoyed too. We would probably be annoyed about it online.
Mine's like I don't not like him like personally. I think he's
no. I know. That's actually more just yeah. I think the Shanahan stuff is always about what he's able to do without like elite quarterback play. Now you could my buddy who hates Shanahan, my best friend, my best man in my wedding, loves to say like, well, is he not helping pick those quarterbacks? Like, can he not like pick a better quarterback? And I'm like, well, it's hard to get a franchise guy, and I think he's got the closest thing he's had to it with Purdy here, but still obviously not like some top-notch guy. And speaking of Purdy, Josh Dubow, never heard of this guy, but he had this stat that I liked out there. He works for the AP. 49ers Brock Purdy completed 72.6% of his passes on in-breaking routes and threw in-breaking routes at the second highest rate in the NFL to Mac Jones, who threw them at a higher rate than Brock Purdy did. The Eagles allowed 51.9% completion percentage on in-breaking routes across the middle of the field, the lowest mark in 10 seasons of next-gen stat data. I thought that was a really interesting kind of schematic point there, that we really just take away the middle of the field. And the main reason for that, and the main reason that I'm not as concerned about Christian McCaffrey, is a guy who got snubbed this morning in Zach Bond and our linebacker crew that does just an unbelievable job. Zach Bond was apparently the number one guy left off of the All-Pro at linebacker. The fifth guy didn't make first or second team. He was the only player in the NFL with 120 plus tackles, 3+ sacks, and 3+ takeaways. It's an absolute sham. Should have been on the first team, let alone the second team, or off the entire thing. Absolutely absurd. But anyway, another stat here, and this goes to a bet. Give me Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown plus 200. Dallas Goedert. 11 touchdowns, trail only Devontae Adams for most of the NFL this season. This tweet from our very own Shane Half here. 10 of those 11 touchdowns were red zone touchdowns, accounting for 58.8% of the Eagles' red zone touchdowns this year, which leads the NFL for any team. And then the 49ers defense also allowed 10 touchdowns to tight ends in 2025, which is the second most among the playoff field. So Dallas got an anytime touchdown. Obviously, I'm on Jalen anytime touchdown, even though it is no longer the best bet in sport. It has cost me a bundle this year. But I'll have a small bet on both of those touchdown numbers. And one last point that I've kind of I thought of this on last Sunday. The 49ers this year remind me a lot of a team from last year. There was a team that won 14 games, had to play in week 18 for this big game on the road, or I forget if it was on the road or at home, but for the 1 seed to win the division, and you lose. That was Sam Darnold and the Vikings. They got creamed, and I think it was similar though. I don't think that they got blown out like 31-3. I don't think the team playing against them scored that much. I think they kind of just shut down the offense, and you saw that Vikings team crumble. And that was it. And they had to go on the road to LA the next week, a tougher matchup than you'd probably expect, losing a 1-seed bowl in week 18. And they got creamed by LA. San Fran, you lose that big, huge game at home where you had the chance to play the rest of your games at home leading up to the Super Bowl. You have to go on the road, not as a 5-seed to play Carolina, but as a 6-seed to the defending Super Bowl champions. I see a lot of parallels and similarities there, and think this. I'm not going to say it gets ugly. I think it could, though. I do think it could. I'll go 27-17. 27-17 is what I'll go with.
So you still like the under there too?
Yeah, that was that right under 44.5, 45.5.
Yeah, I think I got it at 45.5.
Yeah, right under that number. Real quick, let me run 2 college basketball plays I've got by you while I've got you before I send you off here. I've only got 2 today. 2:30. Staying in Philly here. Marquette's terrible. I feel like Villanova should be like a 9-point favorite here. You're getting them at -4.5. I actually haven't placed this bet yet. I think this is going to be a 2 or 3 unit bet for me. Villanova's got the number 23 offense on KenPom. They have like a really good scorer, a really good rebounder, a really good passer, and they're all 3 different players. I always kind of like that when a team has that. And on KenPom, Marquette's 174th on offense. That's just such a massive scoring differential, and Villanova's better on defense too. So it's not. I don't really get this line to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, Nova coming off a loss to Creighton, so I think that game was at home as well. So you rarely things change a little bit with Neptune, but like Villanova historically has been one of the best home teams in the country over the past 10 to 15 years. So like them to take care of that one. And yeah, Marquette is a major head scratcher this year. It's a complete implosion. So we're 1 week into the new year and they're in kind of full on quit mode already.
I do like what Willard. I know that they lost that last game, but it does feel like Villanova's back on track after being
Yeah.
kind of in the while. I think they're like right now they're like a 4 or 5 seed on
Yeah,
bracketology.
they're
If you
definitely
look
in
at
the.
those.
It's weird they haven't been ranked yet. I'm kind of confused at that, and losing to Creighton the other night's not going to help that. But yeah, they're definitely back on track. They got a few guards who can really shoot. I went to a couple games this year.
Nice.
Pretty fun watch. Different. It seems a lot different than Neptune. They're a lot more kind of cohesive, I guess is probably a good word.
Yeah, I mean they look like an actually coached basketball team. But at 6 o'clock, my last college basketball play of the day, I've got Auburn on to pick them against Arkansas. I can't quit Auburn. They keep losing in heartbreaking fashion. Now I've covered on those games. I think for a couple of them, but they've lost some end of the game overtime. Real heartbreakers. I still I still believe in them to get it together down the stretch. They've played a brutal schedule. If you look at
Yeah.
their kind of strength of schedule metrics, and Stephen Pearl, welcome to the big time to play all these teams right away. But you watch them, and they're still impressive. Like Pettiford and Hall and Overton, like they're still really impressive to watch, and they just find their ways to lose these close games. I don't like this Arkansas team. I think they're kind of fake when I watch them, and I feel like they have all the guys from last year's team who I didn't like that much, and like Richmond and like a couple of the other pieces that I kind of felt like hurt them in big games. But I'm going with Auburn here on a pick 'em.
Yeah, so I just started a new job at like the beginning of December, and I've had like so much time with that where I've been so out on college basketball this year.
I hear you.
I'm like just starting to get into it. But yeah, kind of just looking at Auburn's schedule, like I've watched them a handful of times, and I think anytime you kind of throw a new head coach right into the mix a few weeks before the season starts, it might take a little bit of time of adjustment. But that is a scenario where Auburn, one of the better home court advantages in the country. I think they're going to show out today against Calipari and Arkansas, obviously coming to town, and kind of like I don't know if it's necessarily do or die, but you lose that game, you fall to 9-7, 0-3 in the SEC. And for them to be a favorite in this spot, I think that kind of tells you a lot about this. So, yeah, I kind of like that line there with Auburn as well.
And one last NBA pick here. I've got the under at 233.5 in Mavs Bulls, and I'm going first half under 119.5. 7 of the last 9 Bulls games went under. Their last 3 all have went under. 4 straight unders are cash for the Mavs. And then both teams are missing their top scorer, AD for Dallas, Giddy for Chicago. And neither team has a scorer averaging 20 or more on either team. So give me riding with some NBA unders by the way. By the way, I'm 5-15 this year betting on the NBA. I can't buy a win in the NBA. Plus units in college basketball though. So we're getting there. So Beef, any other bets that we didn't get to going through the slate here, whether that be for the NFL slate, college, NBA, anything any early thing on the national championship?
Nothing really sticking out to me. I would just say my bracket. I did have the
Oh,
Eagles.
yeah.
I did have the Eagles knocking off the Texans in the Super Bowl. I don't know. Do you want me to run through?
Texans.
Yeah, you want me to run through NFC, AFC?
Yeah, give me the championships. Give me AFC championship and NFC championship.
So I got Eagles over the Rams for the
Same.
NFC, and I have Texans over the Broncos in the
Wow.
AFC. I think I got the Broncos taking down the Chargers in the next matchup, and then Texans Jags. I think it's a coin flip. But like if there's one team that is suited to play in that one possession type game with the Broncos, I think the Texans kind of match that. I think you go there and maybe it's like a 10-7 final or something. That game sets football back 25 years. But any team out of the AFC that makes a Super Bowl, I'm not going to be surprised unless it's the Steelers and probably the Chargers. I think the Chargers maybe could win a game or two. I don't know necessarily if they can make the Super Bowl. And then NFC, any team besides the Panthers, if they made the Super Bowl, I'd be like, okay, I could see it. Like a little out on the Packers, Bears, I don't know how much, but I'm not going to be shocked. So I'm really excited for this NFL playoffs. I feel like it gets thrown around a lot, like, oh, it's the most open it's been. It's like, no, I really think this is. You take Mahomes out, obviously that opens up the AFC, and the Eagles, I think, until they're not, are the king of the NFC. Let's have someone else kind of take them down. But at the same time, it's fair to have kind of your doubts about them. And if the defense doesn't play their A game, what does the offense do in return? So really excited. I think it's a fun weekend ahead.
I'm going with the Eagles over Rams in the NFC Championship, just like you. And I think the reason that I said earlier is just because I think there's just as many reasons to be concerned about the Rams defense as there is about the Eagles offense, if not more so. Because I think the Eagles offense, you can buy into the personnel being elite a little bit more and stepping up in the big moments. As Jalen Hurts said, it's in some people, or I forget the exact quote.
Yeah.
Some people, it's just in. When they asked him about stepping up in big games, which that will not look great if he doesn't, if he has a bad game in this playoff season. I'm sure that the haters will bring that one back up. But anyway, I'm going with the Eagles over the Rams. And in the AFC, I have two teams that I think you knocked out in round one. I'm going Pats over Bills in the AFC title game, and then I'm going Eagles over Patriots in the Super Bowl there. Eagles Pats Part 3. And we break the tie there. So that's what I've got. Beef has Eagles over Texans. We're a couple of homers here on the Eagles Pinball Network. But no, I believe it. I put my money where my mouth is. I made the biggest future or the largest wager future that I've ever placed on the Eagles at 10-1. That was a 5-unit future, and I kind of decided I'm not really going to bet New England or Philly as favorites in games. I'm not going to lay points when I have these big futures riding on those teams. So that's why my card a little lighter this weekend, kind of focused on those Bears and Texans games on today and then on Monday. But Beef, always a pleasure to have you on, man. Keep killing it over at Beef Up Front. Beef's about to go on 97.5 with Sean Brace. What time's that at?
12:30.
12:30. Everybody go check out Sean Brace, my guy's show, over on 97.5, and check out Beef Spot there on 97.5 at 12:30. You can go check out his stuff at Ryan Cool 35. Beef, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thanks, Mark. Go Birds, man.
Go Birds, and Birds come.